Hi, this is David Smith at The Art of David Smith. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. A lot of the work that I do presently is freelance to a tattoo artist. So I've been asked several times by, I suppose, people who are wanting to possibly follow this into a career to do a few lessons on starting how you would start out drawing some tattoos. So probably one of the easiest ones to start with is what we refer to as an old school style tattoo rose. So these are the ones that typically maybe a grandfather who'd been in the forces or something like that had probably had a tattoo of this version in the past. So there's been quite a resurgence in them of recent, these old school type tattoos. They tend to be quite thick black lines and quite vivid with the colours. So what you can see before you is pretty much it's a little guide, a target essentially. So if I start, so just off the centre, I'm going to do quite a fancy question mark. I'm going to bring it round. Now all these lines are in pencil. I'm drawing them a little bit darker than I would normally, so it's picked up on the video. But at the end of it, once you rub all the lines out, all these guidelines are going to disappear. So we've got the question mark. We then come from the other side and we cut across that. So essentially the question mark's kind of tucking in behind what is going to be the first of the petals. I'll just finish this centre a little bit better. So from the back of here, now there's no right or wrong way with these things. All I've tried to devise is a system to show you the basics, and then obviously you experiment from that point. So what we're going to do is, like with a typical rose, we're going to build up from the centre. So we're using that centre target to start, forming the petals. We'll then come over to the other side. I suppose it's a little bit like when kids draw clouds at the beginning. So from there we start building up the petals. At this point, typically what would happen is, like the base of that petal, but then it starts to form the petal below it. So again from here, and it's really an exercise. So we're now using the middle ring as our guide, and at least that way it forms in a nice uniformed quite kind of shape. We use that guide to form our next row of petals. From there, it's a lot of this kind of thing, it's trial and error, it's getting the balance right. Often when you build up natural things like plants, flowers and stuff like that, you'll tend to work in 3s and 5s. So when we get to the outer edge of this, we're going to use 5 petals because it gives a more naturalistic look to the final piece. So obviously we've got a bit of a gap here now at this middle level, so we're going to bang another petal into there, and you can start seeing how this is obviously building up, how it's becoming to how we're forming it. So in here, so we're now onto the outside. So obviously the petal's going to be a lot larger, but from here we work as way, and again we're using that outside guide. Doesn't matter if we go over it slightly, but it just kind of reins us in and gives us something to work to. Obviously once you've been doing these for a while, you really won't need the guides at all, and you'll just kind of be drawing these things in your sleep when you've done enough of them. But this will at least give you a bit of a starting point, and it's a good exercise in how to progress with something like an old school rose. So there's our 5 petals around the outside. And obviously, depending on where we're going to put this on the person, for instance, if it's going straight onto a tattoo, the overall size is going to be governed by the template that you'll have taken from the client. So if it's, say, going on the back of the hand or something like that, you'll have got a template of the size, and you'll be drawing this to scale, or certainly using a photocopier possibly afterwards to reduce it down. So now what I'm doing is just popping some leaves on. This kind of softens the overall feel and gives it that, I suppose, more naturalistic type of look. So we have a couple of larger leaves down here at the bottom, and then, like a rose tends to have, we're going to put the serrated edge to these leaves down here. So again, when we move on to the next stage, all these pencil lines, all these guides and everything else will all just be rubbed straight out using an eraser when we go on to ink the rose in stage 2. So from that point, I would then, via the use of a light box or even a window is perfectly fine, we move to stage 2. So I've taken this, I've now cleaned it up using inks, fine liners. So I tend to use a 0.5 and a 0.3 to go over all these lines. A lot of these outsider ones, you want them to be slightly thicker than the inside ones. It gives it a bit more of that old school type of image, and I've seen these go way thicker. It's really going to come down to you and what you're offering the client as to how thick and how you eventually colour these roses. Now at this point there's a whole multitude of ways that you can colour these things. Now I've seen old school roses done like this. Now I'm using pencil for this, but if you've got some of the big chisel end marker felt tip type things, you could blast the colour into here very, very quickly. But at least the pencil's giving you an idea of where the colour's going to go for when you come to the tattooing stage, and it's also giving you a visual representation for your client to look at. Now you've got colouring in that kind of style, or you can even think of taking it right up to the edge. If you're doing something like that, going right up to the edge of each of your petals, you may well then want to go into, I suppose, some sort of darker tones to lend a bit more weight to the overall picture. So depending on how you see the light falling on these petals, you can then obviously put the darker colour into there and break it up that way. Really, with anything like this, it's experimentation. When you've got it at that pencil stage, what I would possibly say is trace off a whole page full of the roses and colour them in different ways for you to see which style you like the best, or present a page of these to the client and see which the client would like best. So I've gone with this particular style of colouring. So what I've got then at this stage is, obviously I've then built up all the colours with this white outline, and then when I've got the open petals in here, I've worked into these areas with my pencils just to soften these particular more open type petals, the new petals as they're coming out from the centre, just to give a different feel, I suppose, to the overall finish. But as you can see from those 3 stages, your pencil stage to your line stage and to your finished, this is how I and how we at the tattoo shop I work with have built our old school roses in the past. So if you have any questions, or if you like to leave comments in the comment section below, please feel free. Even better, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my page, that would be absolutely fantastic, because subscribers really do count at this stage. And I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.